Hello and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast. Today my guest is Craig Meriwether and our topic is hypnosis for anxiety and trauma recovery. Craig is a clinical hypnotherapist, a certified medical hypnosis specialist. He specializes in neuro-linguistic programming and he is the founder of Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. His specialty is that he helps eliminate the negative emotions and limiting beliefs that keep people from reaching their full potential. He does this through hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming, and we really break down these modalities, what they are, why they're effective, and how we cycle through varying levels of hypnosis throughout the day, and how trauma and stress and anxiety and addiction and so many other issues can be relieved with this therapeutic technique, and how the onus and the power is on the client. It's not that the hypnotherapist is healing the client, but that the client is healing themselves. So we really break open this topic. I love this episode. I hope you'll enjoy it. And please, if you are, take a moment to give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. It definitely means so much to spread the word for the podcast. And I'm going to hop on in with my episode with Craig. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast, a place to explore possibility through mindfulness, movement, and self-discovery. Our intention is to deliver insight and inspiration while fostering conversations that are genuine, unfiltered, and deeply human. We hope you will enjoy today's episode. Hi, good morning, Craig. Welcome to the Connected Community Podcast.
Hi, Nikki. How are you? I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now, so I'm glad we finally have a time to just talk for a bit.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Today, we're going to chat about releasing trauma with hypnosis. Yeah. And you're a certified clinical hypnotherapist and a medical hypnosis specialist, and you do NLP. And so what makes somebody a clinical hypnotherapist, and what is a medical hypnosis specialist?
Well, the differing titles all just revolve around what you focus on. A lot of people, when they help people with trauma or anxiety, maybe issues around lack of confidence, or just if you're struggling with anger issues or depression or things like that, they'll call themselves a clinical hypnotherapist as to differentiate themselves from an entertainment hypnotist, something that you might see at Las Vegas or in a comedy club or something like that. In terms of specifically medical hypnosis, that was specific training in dealing with pain control, healing acceleration, boosting the immune system, things like that. I mean, just cancer support, but specific training in dealing with those kind of more intense medical issues.
Yeah. And then what is neuro-linguistic programming?
So neuro-linguistic programming is a methodology of using language and the way one uses conversation to help in the healing process. Back in the early 70s, there's two academics at University of Santa Cruz, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. One was a mathematician, the other was a linguist. And they'd have these conversations about Milton Erickson, or Virginia Satir, or Fritz and Laura Perls, who developed Gestalt therapy, and they're fascinated by how they use language in healing, and not just the words they use, but the tone and the pacing. And so they actually started studying it on a academic level, researching it, listening, not even interviewing those masters, but also listening to recordings, watching film, and using their academic profession to create a protocol on how to use language to influence. They came up with this protocol, and they called it neuro-linguistic programming. I'm sure a lot of your listeners probably know of Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. He started his career in promoting neuro-linguistic programming for change, for personal growth and development. And if you watch a lot of those early videos of him in the 1980s, he's just doing straight NLP, helping people with fear of snakes and all these other things to kind of grab the attention of the morning shows and radio shows and things. And so he was using it, and some of the other people like Will Horton and the others we're taking this academic information and offering it to, the wider masses so we could all understand it. It then kind of got into the more used car salesman kind of thing and the dating realm, trying to influence people to go out with you, which was unfortunate. But neuro-linguistic programming is neither good nor bad. It's sort of like the Force in Star Wars. You can use it for good, you can use it for bad. It's just, here's the systematic approach of using language to influence. But it's not unlike a doctor who maybe you're having your appendix out. You have appendicitis, and he says, okay, this is going to be an easy operation. It's very simple and easy to do, but you're going to be in a lot of pain for the next 2 weeks. That's the influence of language from an authority figure. And what are the chances that you're going to be in a lot of pain afterwards?
Yeah.
So that's the language of influence, is what that's all about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think we could do a podcast just on that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I do want to deep dive into releasing trauma with hypnosis, but I also want to talk before about what is hypnosis. And you and I had previously spoken, and I had told you that I had 2 people try to do hypnosis with me and it didn't work. And so I really thought that conversation was interesting. So let's talk about why I thought that didn't work and what is actually the hypnotic state.
So the hypnotic state is something everybody experiences every day. It's not something like you see in the movies. It's not some voodoo zombified trance state. It's just basically lowering your brainwave state. So the famous ones we learned about in school were beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And it's literally just how fast your brain cells are firing. Now, multiple times a day, you might sense yourself drifting off. Maybe you're at work and you're in a boring meeting, or just, the work you're doing is boring. And you start thinking about the weekend, how much fun it's going to be. Or maybe you got friends coming over, family coming over, you got to get the house together and you got to get the shopping done. Or you got a big presentation coming up at work. And so you start thinking about these things that are in the future. Maybe you start thinking about something that happened in the past, maybe something fun, a trip you took, or maybe something that, was pretty traumatic in your life. You've now altered your state of consciousness. Again, nothing fancy. It's just you started daydreaming about the future or thinking about the past. And by doing so, you've removed yourself from the beta brainwave state, firing about 18 cycles per second in terms of how fast your brain cells are firing together, and moved it down to the alpha brainwave state. And then there's that theta brainwave state we're really familiar with when we're waking up in the morning or falling asleep. You're not really asleep, but you're not really awake either.
Yeah.
Maybe you're back in high school math class and you start doing one of these and you're down into theta brainwave state. You're firing about 6 cycles per second. Delta sleep, REM sleep is about 1 or half cycle per second. But, let's say I'm back in high school math class and, I'm paying attention because it's going to be on the test. I'm writing notes. And then I just start doing one of these and I start staring out the window because the class is boring to me. Teacher's still talking, kids are still acting, asking questions and acting up. But I've just removed my consciousness from this reality of math class, altered my state of consciousness down into a daydreamy state, thinking about how fun the weekend's going to be with my friends. And then I start falling asleep, not really asleep, not really awake. And then the teacher's all, hey, Craig, why don't you do the problem on the board? And I jolt awake and I'm looking around, everybody's staring at me. I'm looking at the problem on the board. I don't know how to do it. I wasn't paying attention. And so now I'm firing about, maybe 25, 30 cycles per second because I'm stressed. I'm in high beta.
Yeah.
And so just in a matter of 5, 6, 7 minutes, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times, put myself in what's called the hypnagogic trance state is a fancy term, but that's just alpha, theta, even delta. And so it's something everybody can do because we do it multiple times a day. We were having that discussion before we recorded, and you were mentioning that it didn't work. And what I said to you, to be absolutely blunt, is because the hypnotherapist you're working with weren't very good. The whole basis of neuro-linguistic programming is to do these hypnotic, if you will, healing with your eyes open. Again, the doctor telling you about your surgery and telling you that you're going to feel a lot of pain over the next 2 weeks while you heal from surgery.
Yeah.
He probably has you in a hypnotic trance state because you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's feeding you information to influence how you feel. So the
Right.
doctor has put you in a hypnotic trance state and is feeding you suggestions on how your body's going to react later. It's hypnosis.
Yeah.
And so really what it boils down to is intention. What is your intention? And it could be that, somebody goes to a hypnotherapist and they don't sense themselves being hypnotized because they have an idea of what it's supposed to be because they saw it in the movies or saw it on the Las Vegas show or something. But really just going into office or doing it over a Zoom call, which works really well too. You've already put yourself in a kind of relaxed state.
Yeah.
And if your intention is to heal, then you will heal. But if you don't want to heal, or if there's some sort of blocks around that, and maybe that's where they should have started with, is because there's some fear around, maybe there's some secondary gain to that anger or to that anxiety or to that fear. And so maybe that's where that should have started. So a lot of this work is really all about what it is you want to do. I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. That's why smoking cessation is not 100% guarantee. I can't make people quit smoking. Otherwise, I can go into all the casinos, all the bars, and just like snappy, wavy my hand, and everybody stops smoking, and everybody has a healthier life. Just as I can't go into all the prisons and hypnotize everybody to be a upstanding, law-abiding citizen, or go to the world leaders and create world peace, or get Elon Musk. I can't hypnotize Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check, because I can't make people do anything they don't want to do. And so you say, well, yeah, I've seen those shows, though. I went to Las Vegas. I went to a comedy club, and I saw one of those hypnotist shows. I said, yeah, and every single person up there on that stage volunteered to be up there. That hypnotist didn't make anybody go up on the stage. They literally asked for volunteers. And they picked who? The most enthusiastic people, not the people kind of halfway raising their hands. The people waving their hands are like, me, pick me, because they're excited to be up there. And even once they get up there, they're doing little kind of tests to see how responsive they may be, because you're up in front of a bunch of people. So that's all. And so really it's all about intention and what it is you want to do. If you want healing, if you want more confidence, somebody may have social anxiety, so they want more confidence when going to networking events or something like that. If that's what you want, then you can have it.
Yeah.
And I can't make you have that, but if you want it, you can do the work to, realign your mind and your body, literally rewire your brain, and, become the person that you want to become.
I'm almost wondering if there was a possibility that I was hypnotized and didn't know it.
Yeah. Again, it's not that it's this, magical realm of angels coming down and putting a nice blanket over you and singing song.
Yeah.
And this big mystical experience. It's just, how about you close your eyes and just pretend that you're in the future and you're giving that speech with confidence. Have you ever felt confident before? Well, yeah, in the 5th grade, I got up and I did a book report. I was really confident because I loved the book and it went really well. Okay, go back to 5th grade. And now let's pretend you're in the future. It's like, that's all it is. It's just imagination and pretend.
Yeah.
And if you go to a deep, deep level of hypnosis, then fine. I mean, they still do hypnosis during surgery. If somebody's allergic to the anesthesia that they may be using, they'll use hypnosis and put you so far into trance that it looks like you're in a coma. Wow. And that was started back in the early 1800s. They were doing that because, back in the early 1800s, they didn't have fancy hospitals and fancy anesthesia. So, but still today, they were using deep, deep trance state. Dr. James Braid, back in the early 1800s, was using trance state. So he could do operations and things. And he named this coma-like state after the Greek god of sleep. The Greek god of sleep is Hypnos. And so he called it hypnosis. And since then, it's just kind of grown to encompass all sorts of altered states of consciousness that, again, we move in and out of all day long. Just, if you've ever had that experience, Nikki, or I'm sure probably your listeners have, of driving home.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, you're 8 blocks away from your home and you start thinking about the weekend. You start thinking about that presentation you have to give at work or the school assignment you have to do. And all of a sudden you find yourself in your driveway, your parking spot, your garage, and you don't remember the last 8 blocks. You just, put yourself in a state of hypnosis.
Mm.
And to a certain extent, we're all hypnotized.
Yeah.
We all have things we do automatically that we have taught ourselves to do. And some of those things may be kind of unresourceful. I know people who are the most peaceful, gentle, calm, amazingly pacifistic people you've ever met. And you get them on the highway behind the wheel of a car and they get the most angry, the most enraged with the mouth of a sailor. And you're just like, who is this person? But they have hypnotized themselves that in certain situations, they can literally change their physiology and their personality because they have hypnotized themselves. It's the idea of, somebody at work, they're in their office, they're, head of marketing, and they're in their office doing their daily marketing stuff. And the Bill and Fred in the office next door, the two accountants, start their monthly argument about the numbers not adding up. And they start, voices are getting raised and they start arguing with each other and shouting at each other. And a lot of people just kind of roll their eyes. Oh, there's Bill and Fred again. Man, those two guys can't get along. What's with those guys? But maybe this other person starts feeling small and wanting to hide and really, really afraid because maybe when they grew up, they had shouting voices in the home and mom and dad didn't get along. And so when they were a child, the best thing to do was to hide. And maybe that's the best thing the child could do to keep themselves safe, was to hide and keep themselves small and keep quiet.
Yeah.
But now they have hypnotized themselves when given the trigger of shouting voices, even though it has nothing to do with them. But those shouting voices have triggered a response, an automatic response of feeling anxious or nervous or worried and wanting to hide and run away, even though you're 35, 40, 50 years old. And it's because you have hypnotized yourself to create this physical and mental and emotional response. Even though you weren't even thinking about it, it just happened automatically. You've hypnotized yourself.
Yeah.
And so really a person coming to maybe see a therapeutic hypnotherapist, it's really not that we're going to hypnotize them. It's that we're going to dehypnotize them. They're already hypnotized.
Interesting.
They're coming with a problem. They're hypnotized to grab a cigarette whenever they feel stressed, or a drink, or to go on some online gambling site.
Yeah.
They're already hypnotized, or to feel anger or rage or anxiety automatically without even realizing what the trigger is.
Yeah.
So they're already hypnotized. So
that person that gets triggered by the people fighting and that almost like that freeze response, and you're saying that they go into that hypnotic state. If they came to you for therapy and they didn't, would they necessarily have recognition of when they go into that hypnotic state or what the trigger is? And then also, are you going to work with them in a way that you're going to reduce the trigger response? Like, how do you work with that client?
Yeah. So sometimes when I send out my intake form, so everybody gets the intake form, not only have we had a consultation call, so I do free consultation calls, so we talk beforehand, making sure it's a good fit, what it is you want to work on. And so I have an idea, but sometimes some people just write one word. They just write anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want to work on. Other people may write 5 or 6 paragraphs in great detail on not only what the situation is, but how long ago it started and all that. And so either case works because, again, I'm not here to fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You're going to fix yourself. You know what the problem is. If you just want to define it as anxiety, then that's what we work on.
Yeah.
And we often start with just a feeling state in the body because we want to reduce that feeling state, the physicality of that anxiety or that anger, and start cleansing and cleaning the body now of that emotional upset. As you do that, you start training the body to feel a different way. And the more you practice something, the better you get at it. So it's not just, there's sort of 2 parts to this work as I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's the healing that we're going to do in a session. And if that has to do with a past trauma or just maybe something recently that's happened, maybe somebody just got in a car accident, a month ago and now is afraid to get on the highway again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or fear of flying, even though they've flown for 20 years and then they had a really bad flight. And so they have altered how they feel about a situation. That's under their control. They're the ones who altered it. Now, granted, a child in a terrible situation where there may be abuse, of course, that's not their fault. They did not, want that. That's not fair. It shouldn't have happened. And it's not to blame the victim. And again, it's not to say it's your fault because most of that stuff happens unconsciously. But when you realize that if you're the one who installed that anxiety or that trauma or that anger, you're the one who can undo it. That you have the power.
Yeah.
And that's why this is different than talk therapy. We're not going to talk about the situation because I think what people find is when they're doing talk therapy, which can be very helpful, very useful, very healing. But sometimes people feel they're getting stuck in a rut, just talking about the same thing over and over again, or just they talk for 2 years and nothing's better. And not only are they revivifying, like going over and over what the trauma was, it may not be the real problem.
Or they're stuck in a story. So they've told the story so many times that they're stuck in the story, and then the story, there's no emotion behind the story anymore.
Yeah. And if you're just talking about the same thing over and over again, what you practice, you get better at, like you just said.
Right.
And the issue may be that may not be the real problem. And so you spend 2 years talking about the situation, but really it has to do with something else that you're unconscious of.
Yeah.
That's why with therapeutic hypnosis, quiet down the conscious mind, and you can access the subconscious. And that's why, again, I'm not going to fixate it because I don't know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm. Is that easy to do, though? How do you do that? If I came to you and you were trying to get me into a hypnotic state, how easily is that for you to get me into that state if I'm open to it, but I am skeptical?
Let's say we're doing it like this, online. And I'd probably just have you first just stare off at a spot above your computer. And so maybe there's a window there, maybe there's a painting, maybe there's a picture, just a spot on the wall, a pattern in the drywall. Just have you stare at it and just kind of have a soft focus. And just breathe in deeply into your abdomen. A deep breath really helps you reset your nervous system.
Yeah.
Because not only are you triggering the vagus nerve, which is attached to the lungs, but you're also sighing out, and the vagus nerve passes by the vocal cords. So you're also stimulating the vagus nerve through vibrating your vocal cords. And the vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic. So all we're doing at the beginning is just rest and relax. And when your subconscious mind is ready to create all this healing change, go ahead and close your eyes. Now, I did not tell you to just close your eyes. I said, when you are ready to create this healing, close your eyes.
Yeah.
So I know you're ready when you close your eyes. I'm not commanding you. I'm not telling you. I'm not taking control. I'm giving you control. If you want to hold on to this, okay, God bless you. And maybe you'll find some other healing modality. Maybe this isn't the right time. But when you're ready to heal, that's when I get the phone call. I'm usually last on the list because we're kind of the witch doctors.
But then once I close the eyes, this is when I've been stuck with other people too, is that I'm not visual. So I can tap into my body and the body sensations and things like that. But when they start trying to get me to visualize or come up with the story or like, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? Or go open the door or whatever. That's when I get super stuck because I don't have that visual capacity or ability.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also, we have the 5 senses and we can use all of them. And a lot of it is just plain pretend. And just like when, somebody's a child and they're playing in the sandbox, but they're pretending that they're an astronaut on the moon. Yeah. Or they're building that castle out of the sofa cushions and the card table and blankets and pretending that they're the queen of their domain or the king of their domain. You're just playing pretend. Yeah. That's all it is. And with somebody, let's say they're dealing with anxiety. And I'm just going to ask, since you're right here, Nicky, have you ever felt any sort of stress or anxiety?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So just real quickly, just so you can kind of get an idea how this can work, just close your eyes real quick and imagine a situation in the last couple of weeks, maybe the last month or so, a specific situation when you felt really anxious. Okay. And where do you feel that in your body? Where does that anxiety sit in your body? Those feelings originate somewhere, and there's a feeling state in the body. Point to where you feel it.
So it's
where do you
in
feel
my
that
heart?
state?
It's like a fluttering in my heart area.
Yeah. If that anxiety was a color, what color would it be? Just first impression. Just guess. What color would it be?
Red.
Yeah, that's right. Is it big or heavy, rough or
Um,
smooth?
it's like blobby.
Perfect description. 0 to 10, 0 being the most peaceful you've ever felt, 10 being the most anxious, panicked you've ever felt. Where would you rate it right now, 0 to 10?
A 3.
Okay. All right. Now just open your eyes. That's what we do.
Okay.
I mean, you felt your anxiety,
Yeah.
you described it, and by describing it as a color, as a, describing it, its shape or its heaviness or how big or small it is, rating it 0 to 10, you're disassociating yourself from it. So now it becomes sort of outside of yourself, so to speak.
So I wouldn't necessarily need to know the origin of it, right? It doesn't matter about the
No.
origin. It just matters about my experience in this moment.
Yeah. And now that's just the first part of the healing. And that's what we usually do first session is just let's start cleansing and cleaning and taking off the armor. Now there may need to be deeper healing around that. It may just need to reset your nervous system.
Okay.
And again, there's still work to be done outside of a session. What you practice, you get better at.
So would there be visualization? So say I have anxiety
maybe.
about public speaking. I think that's a common one for so many people. And so maybe I tap into that. I can feel and experience what that is in like in my body. Would the next later steps when we work together be to imagine myself going in front of an audience of 100 people or maybe 10 people? I don't know. Do we work with 10 and then go to 100 and then embodying that confidence and embodying that feeling of safety and security in my body when speaking in public?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're doing exactly right. And notice that you said imagine, not visualize. So you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you. I think people get stuck in certain language because they may associate with that sense. And so that's why it's very interesting when you listen to people actually talk to each other. If somebody's more of a visual person, they'll say things like, you're not seeing the whole situation. And if you could really look at my situation, they're using that kind of language. Or somebody else, if they're more auditory, they may be saying, I'm hearing you, but what you're saying to me is not making any sense. Whereas a more kinesthetic person is like, I'm feeling you're not getting what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so these three people are having this conversation and yet not understanding each other.
Is this neuro-linguistic
so
programming that you're speaking about too?
Yeah.
That's super cool. I get it.
Yeah. If you're in a meeting or you're in a networking event and you can hear how they're speaking, just mirror how they're speaking, mirror their body language. That was that whole thing of you're trying to influence a business meeting, sit like they're sitting, talk like they're saying, pace how they're talking. If they're talking fast, you talk fast. They're talking slow, you talk slow.
Yeah.
And you can actually influence people if you mirror how they're talking and they're talking slow and really thinking about what they're saying. And you're like, oh God, we got to hurry this up. You can mirror their speech and then slightly raise the speed. And if you kind of get in rapport with them, you can raise their speed as well. They'll follow you.
Oh, interesting.
Because you're mirroring each other. And it takes practice. And that's more of that kind of influencing the sales and that kind of stuff. But
it makes me think of athletes too, where they visualize themselves crossing the finish line first and winning. And I bet athletes use this visualization technique a lot.
Yeah. There was a study back in the 1990s, and it was right in the 80s and 90s where like I was there doing this work. But the scientists back then were getting all sorts of great equipment, MRIs and SPECT scans. So so they could watch the brain in real time doing whatever they were researching. And this one group of researchers wanted to watch the brain in real time as it learned something new. And so they picked piano. They brought a bunch of volunteers in who didn't know how to play piano. They taught them the simple little scales and exercises and little songs you learn as a beginner. And they came into the lab to practice piano 2 hours a day for 7 days straight. They had the control group, because when you're doing this kind of research, you want to compare and contrast. Here's a brain that doesn't do anything, doesn't learn anything. Here's a brain that's learning piano. At the end of the week, what are the differences?
Yeah.
But what's extraordinary is they had, and very interesting, is they had a third group. And this third group only pretended to play the piano. And so they brought them in. These people who didn't know how to play piano, showed them simple little scales and the exercises and the little songs you learn. But instead of sitting at the piano, they went over and sat down on the couch or a recliner, closed their eyes, and pretended to play piano. So at the end of the week, they hook everybody up to the MRIs, SPECT scans, all that stuff. Look at everybody's brain again. Control group, nothing changed. Of course not. They didn't learn anything. They didn't do anything different. Nothing changed their brain. No big mystery there.
Yeah.
The group who actually played piano, worked the keys with their fingers, heard the music with their ears, read the sheet music with their eyes. They developed a new neural network on the right side of the brain, the part of the brain for music and learning. Of course they did, because they're learning music.
Yeah.
Again, no big mystery there. What's, again, extraordinary is that the group who only pretended to play piano, never heard any music, never touched the piano with their hands, never read any sheet music, only closed their eyes and pretended, they developed the same neural network in the same part of the brain as those who played piano. Their brains look like they were piano players, even though they never touched the piano.
Yeah.
And so that whole fake it till you make it, you can literally start rewiring your brain in less than a week just by pretending you're the person you want to be. And that's hypnosis. That's hypnotherapy. That's neuro-linguistic programming. Using these methods to literally start changing your physiology, literally start rewiring your brain. There's a lot of your listeners may remember the 1970s, and in the Olympics, the Soviet Union was very dominant in gymnastics. Nania Comaneci, people remember her, and they were winning the gold, silver, and bronze, and winning all the world championships. And no one could figure out why they're so much more skilled and talented and dominant in gymnastics than the rest of the world. And what the world found out is they were spending at least half of their time in mental rehearsal.
Oh my gosh.
So they would practice, they would get on the mat or the parallel bars or the uneven bars or whatever they're doing, the rings, and they would practice, of course.
Yeah.
But then they would sit on the couch, sit on the bed, sit on the recliner, and then they would mentally rehearse the routine successfully, of course, and maybe even backwards. I don't know. They'd rehearse it in all sorts of different ways. And why we know that works now is because they are literally wiring that success into their brains. What becomes really kind of scary about it is, what if you're practicing failure?
I was just going to ask you that. Can we wire our brains negatively with detrimental thoughts or thinking of devastating outcomes over and over again?
What is strongest within your mind is what you practice over and over again. So what if you're practicing being anxious before a speech? What if you're practicing, just failing? What if you're practicing being sad and depressed? What if you're practicing being angry?
So what advice would you give people for some self-work that they can do on their own when they start noticing some of these patterns come up?
Well, one thing that what you just said was kind of brilliant. Being mindful of it is probably the key right there. When you are aware of it, that's the time to shut it down. But the thing is, well, how do you shut it down? Especially if you're getting into one of those loops. If you're interested, I can show a real quick 5-minute little exercise that people can do to reset their nervous system. This is like real world stuff you can use out there in your life, day in, day out. Teach your kids how to do this. This is how simple this is. But this is a powerful exercise to reset your nervous system, so you turn off the stress response. The sympathetic nervous system, turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, and really literally start to change the chemistry in your brain. When you do that, you can start to focus your attention on something else, because you've kind of broken the connection to that old way of thinking and feeling. So it's very simply called 3-2-1 reset. This was developed by Dr. Richard Nongard, who's a wonderful psychotherapist and hypnotherapist. And the 3 stands for 3 slow, gentle breaths. The breath is the great restorer of your nervous system. Really reset it, because as you take those big belly breaths, if you feel where your rib cage is, it's like 2 inches from your hip bones. The lungs are huge. But when we're stressed, we just breathe in the top part of the lungs. We tighten those stomach muscles, waiting for that 1-2 punch. So if you can relax the stomach muscles, get those big belly breaths in, really breathe in, and even breathe in through your nose and exhale out with a sigh. It's an audible sigh. Because when you hum, or you sing or you chant, not only are you, again, stimulating the vagus nerve, which is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system, there's something about humming that just allows you can't think of other things when you're humming. But if you're taking a deep breath and sighing out audibly, if you can, if it's appropriate, and then what we're going to do is that's three slow breaths. We're going to create bilateral stimulation. So when somebody's anxious or panicked or feeling fear, they're lighting up a part of the right side of the brain. So all, that part of the brain is sucking up all the blood supply and oxygen to light up this part of the brain. So all these parts of the brain go quiet. So bilateral stimulation is just little exercises you do with your body to start stimulating other regions of the brain. So they become more dominant, and therefore they take the blood supply, the oxygen, the nutrients, and that anxiety starts dropping. So even just like, here's my little stress ball, just, moving your arms back and forth. So for the listeners, I got my arms in a T, in a cross shape, held out, and then I'm going to pass the ball right in front of me. By forcing my body to do this, and I have to light up my brain and other parts to do that action. Walking is another great way of doing bilateral stimulation. Basically, right side of the brain controls left side of the body, left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. And so when you're doing those kind of exercises, you're lighting up all these different parts of the brain, and that anxiety feeling dissipates. So bilateral stimulation, what we're going to do as we're breathing slowly and deeply and gently and rhythmically, we're going to grab our shoulders and start squeezing our shoulders. Now, as you create this X and grab onto your shoulders, you'll notice that this is a hug. This is nurturing, healing, loving touch. And now the nerves in your body are now sending a signal back up to your brain, not unlike touching a hot pot, which sends a signal up to your brain to let go of the hot pot. You're sending a signal through this nurturing, loving, healing touch to start creating oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. Even though you're giving this hug to yourself, and you can, like I say, squeeze your shoulders or give yourself a bear hug or do the havening technique, which is rubbing your hands up and down your arms. It feels good. If you're feeling good, you can only feel good by changing your brain chemistry. You feel anxious because you're creating adrenaline and cortisol and the neuropeptides molecules, literally, of anxiety and fear.
You can create oxytocin doing that for yourself. I didn't know that. I thought you needed somebody else to touch you to create that oxytocin.
Well, we're going to supersize this by imagining somebody else.
Okay.
And so the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And this is most noticeable when somebody's having a nightmare. Maybe you, Nikki, or your listeners have you ever had the experience of having a nightmare? It doesn't matter how stupid or crazy it is. Gigantic cheeseburgers chasing you down the street, throwing coconuts at you. It's dumb. But your mind, because the main task of your unconscious mind is for safety, and it's for protection, is for survival. So even in deep sleep, it senses this threat. And so the protocol is shoot first, ask questions later. And so it'll start turning on the adrenaline and cortisol, the neuropeptides of fear and anxiety. 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your arms to fight. 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your legs to escape, all because of cheeseburgers chasing you on the street, all in deep sleep. So imagine what's happening in your waking world. And so through imagination, through just thought, you can change your physiology. So let's do that on purpose. Again, like in hypnotherapy, we're really not doing anything you're not already doing already. We're just doing it on purpose. And so by breathing deeply, gently, slowly, grabbing your shoulders, giving yourself a hug. And now, if it's safe for you to do so, of course, don't do this if you're driving your car and you don't have to focus or concentrate on anything else. Just close your eyes and just imagine another person that you want to give a hug to. And maybe your kids, or maybe even a pet, a dog, a cat, or a good friend, or maybe somebody who's no longer with us, your grandmother, your grandfather, maybe somebody you've never met before, Mother Teresa or Gandhi or Joan of Arc, or somebody you admire. And just pretend that you're hugging that person. The mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And as your body is feeling this hug, and you're seeing those signals up to your brain, and your brain is imagining that person you want to give a hug to, you're flooding your brain with oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, creating the molecules and neuropeptides of love, joy, and happiness, which are now flooding your bloodstream. And you just feel different. Just in 5 minutes, you can reset your nervous system. And if you just did that once a day or twice a day, imagine how you're going to feel at the end of the week. And if you did that, for a month straight, just for 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, once or twice a day. Just imagine how you're going to feel by the end of the month. And even right there, as people are listening, we're doing a form of hypnotherapy because I'm asking you to imagine how that might feel by the end of the month doing this. And that, again, in turn, just starts this cycle of, okay, if I'm feeling it and I'm doing this, I'm feeling better. You should really start rewiring your brain.
Yeah. It shows you how powerful our minds are. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And beautiful.
Yeah.
It
You may
feels
not know
like
what it is,
it's
but
a really safe technique to use with trauma because you don't necessarily have to talk about it and get re-traumatized by talking about it. And you can work with the body and then sensations and move through the trauma and use the unconscious part of yourself to like heal that trauma.
yeah. And if there is, it's deemed necessary to kind of like identify what it is, it's done in a very, very safe and gentle way.
Right.
I want you to pretend that you're sitting in a movie theater, and as you're sitting in the movie theater, it's just all by yourself. It's your movie theater. You're in the perfect seat in the perfect aisle. Now I want you to remove yourself out of your body and move back up into the projection booth. So now you're behind a wall looking through that little window at yourself, watching a movie of the event. And so now you've disassociated from it twice, and you're behind a wall. And you're not even watching the movie. You're watching yourself watch the movie. And it may be like, well, that's kind of a little silly trick. But it's like, yeah, and it works. And just watching the movie, and then you're in control of the movie. Turn it black and white. Make the movie smaller. Now run it backwards. And just by doing all these things, turn the sound off, or make the sound staticky, or put silent movie soundtrack underneath. Just by doing all these things, you are changing the experience. And you can disconnect the emotions from it. Take all the wisdom and knowledge you need from it. Look, we want to remember that a hot pot is going to burn our hands on a stove, but we don't need to carry the pain around with us. So drop the pain, and then disconnect from that emotional issue. Again, it's not to blame people or say it's their fault. Certainly it was not. And then a lot of trauma is installed unconsciously, or obviously through duress. And oftentimes when we're children, doesn't mean it was our fault. But if you're the one installing it, even as a child, that becomes very empowering. Because if you're the one who installed it, that means you're the one who can do something about it. You're the one who can change it. And that becomes very empowering.
So
you don't have to look outside yourself to maybe a counselor or a therapist. You tell me what's wrong with me, and you tell me how to fix it. What if you just took the power of your own subconscious mind and did the healing? It takes 2, 3, 4 sessions.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Not 80 or 90 over 2 years.
Yeah. Well, Craig, this has been amazing. I feel like there's so much to chat about. How would people find you? What are some of the things that you offer?
Well, probably the best way just to find me is through my website. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, and the name of my practice is Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. If you just Googled Flagstaff Hypnosis through Google search, you'd find me, Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. And, I've been working with people around the country, around the world for the last 4 years because so many things have gone to Zoom, and it works really, really well over Zoom. The other way to find me that may be a little easier to remember, I have a test anxiety course. It's called ACE Any Test. It's a little easier to remember, but you can find my email through either of those places.
Yeah, and I'll have it all in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really interesting conversation, and I really appreciate your expertise. So thank you.
Thank you, Nicky. I appreciate inviting me onto your show.
Yeah.
It was really fun talking with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to the Connected Community Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I can be found at www.nickyyoga.com, NICKYYYOGA.com. Until I see you again next week, I hope you have a beautiful day.